Objections aren't just something that you have a canned response to at the end of a sales call when a prospect brings them up. You want to anticipate your prospect's objections and build them into the sales and marketing process. Objection handling, it is a skill set. It is something that is developed over time and with practice. However, if the only time objections are handled is at the end of a sales call when you're asking for the money, you're putting a lot of pressure on the sales conversation itself, and you're taking up time and energy that could be used for persuasion and really fostering a deep connection with your prospect on the call. So whether you're a founder who is doing your own sales calls, or you're a founder who now has a marketing team and a sales rep, this is for you. You want to know whether or not your sales and marketing process is really working for you and handling these objections ahead of time. So let me know in the comments, do you want to pre-handle objections before they even come up? Type yes. Do you want your sales process to do the hard work and the heavy lifting for you? Type yes. And do you want to have easy sales conversations? Type yes. Now, if you know that leveling up your sales and increasing your sales at the end of 2023 and in 2024, because you may be listening to the replay in the future, you can book a sales growth strategy call with me, Celia Faye Meisel, moremethod.com/strategy-call. It's in the name here in the video, my name. Now, a persuasive sales and marketing process, it's going to pre-handle objections. So I'm actually going to give you 3 areas and ways that you can pre-handle objections that you can actually use, tactical takeaways, and then I'm going to give you an exercise and some homework to do. So you want to handle objections in advance of the sales conversation, and so that when they come up at the end, you're either relaying back to something that was already said in the conversation or referred to, or something that happened maybe in a marketing post you did recently or an email that was sent out before the call. And so when you get to that point, it's their ego, it's their fear brain just saying, looking for reasons not to do something because of that resistance and that fear that comes up. Because a lot of times objections are really just a way to express fear and not have other words than time, money, spouse. Those are your top 3, especially when you're selling B2C. And so people will just say those and they don't even really know if that's really true or not. They'll just say stuff to get off the phone. And so handling those ahead of time, number one, it really takes pressure off that person at the end, because at the end of the call, when you're making the offer, so that they can actually ask real questions or express real concerns, deeper concerns that they have. So pulling back those layers, it's not just a sales tactic to help you get more dollars in the door. That's great. But it's actually something that helps that person peel back the layers and unmask so that they can really show up and express themselves authentically, and that they can ask the real questions and go deep with you and explore whether or not this truly is a right fit. A lot of the sales tactics, they in trainings, it's almost like they handle and they treat your prospect like you are this superior being as the sales rep and the founder with this great offer, and the prospect is not very smart, they're not very bright, they kind of need to be manipulated into it, like they can't make their own decisions, and so a lot of these sales processes are really disempowering, and they do that to really push people and use pressure to get them across the finish line. But the problem is that a lot of people don't buy that way. That tactic doesn't work for them. And so those businesses that are using those models, those really high pressure, sales models and tactics, are actually losing sales that they could be gaining and getting if they were putting their energy into other parts of the sales and marketing process. Okay. Now, diamonds are formed under pressure. So I'm not saying that pressure isn't good, but I am saying that if your whole call is built around the prospect not being very smart or being kind of inferior to your, to your company's great brilliance, godlike, posturing, that's really not who my ideal people are. But I just want to put it out there because I know those trainings exist and you may have been sold to that way and it doesn't feel good. Okay. So that pressure on handling objections and not looking at that whole A to Z sales process, really I'm creating that difference for you in your mind to understand. So there are 3 ways that you can pre-handle objections in your sales process. Get a pencil, write them down. You can always go back and listen to the replay and take notes. The first one, and this is one of my favorites, is client success stories. And so this can be success stories that you repeat back. It can also be testimonials and testimonial videos. So you weave them into your marketing and sales process. And so the beautiful thing about testimonials and testimonial videos and even little snippets, I'm not talking about these long paragraphs, just like 1 line or 2 lines or 3 lines that are really just the money, the gold that person said about you and your program and that transformation, and weaving them into your emails and into your copy and into your pre-call emails and those videos and all of that. It's so powerful because your prospects, they see themselves through other people's stories. They see themselves. And so that's why it's important to have different ones where you kind of highlight like different age groups, different situations, so that people can connect and be like, oh my gosh, well, that person is like me. We have this and this and this in common, and they got this result. And so they start to feel like they belong in your brand, they belong in your company. And so there's an artful way of doing this. And there's an artful way of actually getting the testimonial, which is above and beyond what we can dive into in this live stream. However, when you start to think about getting a variety of testimonials, also making sure, if you're working with different people, like I said, different age groups, different persons of, different ethnic groups as well, men, women, non-binary, you want to make sure that you are just getting a nice sampling of your different clients and that have come through your program, and that there's a good variety of representation there. That's really important. So that is a piece there for just those testimonials and those client experiences, client stories, so the prospect can see themselves inside of your wins and their wins, right? Because your clients' wins are your wins. Okay, number 2 is in your questions. In the first half of your sales conversation, you can actually ask questions that remove objections. And so this is going to be customized to your offer, but a great example would be shining a light on time lost, because time is a big one. I'm too busy. I don't have time. Right? So you can ask questions that get to, okay, well, how many years have you spent dealing with this? Okay, how many months, how many days, how many hours a week? And you start to paint that picture of like, okay, you have spent 25 years dealing with this, and now we're saying that we don't have time to do this. So it actually will help when, bring up that contradiction if that time objection comes up at the end. So you're able to build that case. And then the same thing for money lost. How much money have they spent trying to fix the problem to not getting a result? So those are just 2 examples of questions that you can ask. There are so many, many more customized to your business, customized to your industry. That's all we have time for in this live stream. And then the third way that I love to pre-handle objections is pulling them out and naming them. And so you can do this by common misconceptions. Like, a common thing that people think is that, they don't have time when they've spent 25 years, chasing things that don't work for them, when in reality, our method, we can get you results in 3 days. So you can do things like that where you really build that ROI and that transformation. And it's very important if you are selling B2C, life coaching, relationship coaching, weight loss, energy, any kind of like transformation work. A lot of people are like, I'm not in a make money offer, blah, blah. And it's like, look, we all live in a world where like time and money are currencies and our energy is a currency. And you better believe that your offer has a money component, a time component, a health and healing component to it, without it even being related to that directly per se. But you have to be savvy enough with getting to those quantitative and those, factual, actual numbers to be able to build that case. That is a strength that you develop inside of your sales process. And that's very important. It's very powerful to your prospects when you're able to lead conversations like that. So pulling out, naming them and pulling them out. And there's another way that you can do this as well. At the beginning, you just call it out. Like, if time weren't an issue, or if money were no concern, is this something that you would move forward with? So there's different ways that you can do it, but I want to just give you a high level overview of 3 ways that you can build this into your sales process. And I didn't even touch on the emails and the stick sequence when somebody books in, that they retain, and what happens. So those are just some high level tactics that you can use. And so an exercise for you is that you can make a list of the top objections that you actually get on your calls and write them out and start to look at, okay, what client had that objection that I have, that I have a case study or testimonial for that I could pair with this before my call that people could watch. Or maybe I should get that client back on the phone and re-interview them for their testimonial and ask them about how they overcame that objection or concern. And I would never, by the way, never, ever, ever use the word objection in front of clients. Okay. That is internal language. Okay. So saying objection is you actually like kind of placing that on them. So client facing language would be handling a concern. My client Mary, she had this concern. She had the same concern when she came to us. And then, we've achieved this, and this result in a matter of months of working together, or days or weeks of working together. So you can use that, but never say objection in front of your prospects. Just, little side note there. It's not customer facing language. So you want to write out those objections, look for past clients that had a similar one that you can pair and put testimonials with, or even little blurbs. And then also write out the silent objections. Like, what are those things that people aren't saying? Will this really work for me? All of those things. Can I trust this person? And you want to start building in proof that, yes, this will work for me. We use adult learning methods to make sure that you get the result that you want, because sometimes people are afraid of getting into an online computer and maybe their online portal and they're tech challenged, and like, they're not going to understand. They're going to be lost, right? So you want to build in other ways that show that you really have your clients' backs once they're in your program. But this isn't stuff that you want to be focusing on in your sales call either. So it's ways to pull out objections without having to address them directly and get in the weeds. So writing out those silent objections and pulling those out also. So that is what I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this live stream. Let me know in the comments what your top takeaways were. This was a juicy one. You can book that call with me, a sales growth strategy call, where I'm going to do a sales and marketing quick assessment and look at your sales and your marketing, and come to the call and really look at where you can level up your money-making abilities for you if you're still doing the sales as a founder, for your sales team if you are running a sales team, or maybe you're just ready to kind of level up somebody inside of your company and start training them on sales. I help from the founders doing their sales all the way to those 7-figure business owners that have sales teams. You can book that call at moremethod.com/strategy-call. Until next time, this is Celia Faye Meisel, and thanks for tuning in.